For today's assignment, you guys are going to be analyzing a primary source, the altar to Mars and Venus. This is a really cool piece with lots of history if you guys are into art. It's just, in my mind, really awesome to see how talented, artists were even back 2,000 years ago. And that's what we're going to be analyzing today. Here's our learning targets. I can analyze a primary source and create a claim based off my analysis. I can analyze a primary source to determine how Romans wanted to be remembered. And I can explain how origin stories are tied to a group's sense of tribalism. Okay, so really quickly thinking back to the primary versus secondary source piece, I want you guys to understand how historians use primary sources versus secondary sources. And this is kind of where I'm getting at with this. Secondary sources will tell you why they were written, oftentimes even in the title. So Howard Zinn says People's History of the United States. It's telling you why it exists. It's going to give you a history of the people of the United States. Primary sources often don't tell you why they're written. There are some exceptions to this, like we're going to use Livy, and he calls his things the founding of our city. Like that's kind of implying it's a historical, or it's a history. But a lot of times they don't. We use tons of things as primary sources. For example, a receipt for a piece of gum. Like nobody thinks or knows that that somebody, 80 to 2,000 years later is gonna have that receipt. But oftentimes primary sources are used to piece things together. So because of that, primary sources can be way harder to read and understand than secondary sources. You have to have a lot of background and context into what's going on. So that's how I want you guys to view primary source analysis. They're like clues to a mystery. And we're going to piece these clues together to solve some mysteries in history. That rhymed. But you won't get background from primary sources generally, unless it's like you're actually reading a history from the period, which is Livy. But people who aren't experts in history need secondary sources because that's how we can fill in some of the background, some of the context to help us to use the primary sources. So that's, and secondary sources are written using primary sources as their, historians will use primary sources to create the secondary sources. So there's two sort of ways to differentiate that. All right, so here's what you guys are going to do today. This is the altar to Mars and Venus. This was created sometime during the Emperor Trajan, the Roman Emperor Trajan, in 98, sometime between 98 and 117 CE or AD. So CE is Common Era, AD is Anno Domini. So not quite 2,000 years ago, but a really, really long time ago. What I'm going to have you guys do is, actually, I'll go. Let me back up. This thing looks weird, like it's just a little box-looking thing, but it's got four sides. You're only going to analyze this side. It has other sides to it as well, but I wanted you guys. It's easier to do this with the stuff we've been looking at. This was actually used as the base for a statue. You can see the statue would have gone up here. And it was used twice for two different statues. I think they removed the first statue and then later placed the second statue. And I'm not sure what the statue was of, but it wasn't this one. Sorry, it was kind of misleading that I put this in here. Okay, so what you guys are going to be doing in this assignment, there's an assignment in Schoology called the Altar to Mars and Venus Primary Source Analysis. And when you open that up, it's going to have a series of questions for you. But before you do that, the first thing I want you guys to do in the assignment, it'll show you, and I'll show you this in a second. You're going to use this slide here. So this is slide, I believe, 5 in the slideshow. So you're going to go to slide 5, and you are going to look for all of the symbols that you can possibly find from our story of the Roman origin story. So it's mostly going to, I'll just give you this hint, it's mostly going to be the stuff from, not the Aeneid, it's not going to be Aeneas. This is mostly the story of Romulus and Remus. So I want you guys to find as many symbols as you can, and then you're going to write in the assignment what those symbols, like how do they connect to the story? What is that, the rest of that story? So let me show you your assignment really quickly in Schoology. it's going to look like, in Schoology it looks like this, altar to Mars, but the actual document looks like this. So the first part, you're just going to write in the symbols that you see in the altar image, and then you're going to write the reference. And actually, I'm going to move this. You're going to write the reference and basically explain how they play a role in the story that you can remember. Then there's a series of questions I want you guys thinking about. Why did Emperor Trajan bother to have this altar created? Based on this analysis, what did Trajan want people to know what it means to be Roman? And then last, number 4, is how do you connect this to tribalism? All right, that's your assignment today. You're going to have some time today and tomorrow to work on that. Just because we're doing this asynchronously, it's a little bit tricky for me to get around to everybody. If you finish early, you'll just have some time to do some independent reading. And then tomorrow we'll do some work just talking about the history component of this. All right, good luck to you.